I'm Jaakko Koivula, or KZ, and this is next in the series of videos showing what goes through the mind of an editor when they are looking at your work. This time we are doing dev editing, so that means looking at structural issues of a work instead of focusing so much on the prose level stuff. I'm working on a short story by Zhaernon, author of the Royal Road fiction Wolf Girl Evolution. And I'm happy they gave me permission to work on this short story, as dev editing is a bit nonsensical to do on just like a small fragment of work. So now I can do the whole thing without the video turning out 8 hours long. And also dev editing is or can be very personal. So many authors might not be comfortable with someone pulling out their guts in public. But as this is an older short story, I think we can look at it without anyone feeling too bad. First thing I always look at are the promises the beginning of a work is making. The beginning tells the reader what to expect, and the reader considers those expectations as a promise. So the author either deliver on them or subvert them in a satisfying manner, or otherwise the readers will feel betrayed. Short stories as a format can be more surprising, take tighter turns than novels, but let's see how things start out here. We're in close third person limited, and our POV character is Lana, a young child. They are getting bombed and running to get somewhere safe. So maybe this is that kind of story. It doesn't actually end up being true, but I'll talk more about that a bit later. Pacing is one thing I look at when dev editing. In this beginning, we do the exact same beat of running and it being really tough on Lana at least 3 times, and the repeats aren't really doing much anything. So my first suggestion would be to cut those a bit. Maybe the repeats could be made to do something interesting to showcase how grueling things are for Lana, but as words are precious in a short story, maybe we just end up cutting a few. This would be an example of working on the chapter level pacing. The whole story has a pacing, but also individual moments and chapters have a pacing. So we would be tightening the pacing by removing some of these. Here she couldn't stop. They had to run very far away. It hurt. There's scrapped. Okay, scraped probably. It stung so much. One really painful step after the next, and so on. We could cut down a bit on this so it doesn't feel like it's hammering the same point, spending words on doing the same thing over and over again. Another thing I'm looking for is the choices made about narration in general. What kind of story is this? Does the narration sound the same through the whole work? So first here we are very immersed in Lana's POV, her scrapped knees and so on. But then we also get these like very authorial descriptions of a temple suddenly. So these read basically as a mistake surrounded by the breathless beginning. But at this point, I'm only pointing it out and we'll get back to this later. Here's an interesting thing. This is like an excellent line of dialogue, and it also could be the place this short story starts. Short stories are by definition short. Get in late, get out early is a good guideline when writing short stories. So this would be a fine place to start the story, but it depends, or this depends wholly on what the author wants to do with the story in general. I'll have more notes about that later. This showcases well what dev editing is like. We are not looking at simple lines or particular moments of a story, but the whole thing in general. Maybe this would be a great place to start the short story, but I don't know, before the story has decided what it wants to be in general. Let's see, moving on. I'll note that the POV switches are a bit surprising, as short stories often can't manage that many of those, and we have maybe 4 in this one. We have some more minor notes here along the way, but I'll skip these to get to the actual meat of the review, the structural notes at the end. Here we go. Dev editing is about the whole story the author is telling. How are they doing it? Is it working? What should be done to make it work? But dev editing can go even further than that. Is the story being told even the right one? This short story is only 2000 words long, but there are still maybe 3 different stories smashed together inside it. Firstly, there's the personal story of a child being terrified and then getting their hair ruffled by a kind stone guardian. Then there's the tribe level story of statues coming to life and saving their people. And then there's the galactic level story of an empire being taken down by the ancients. My first question would be, which of these does this short story want to be? Any of these could be a Titan focused, interesting short story, but now that they are all pushed into the same 2000 words, the end result is a bit cacophonic. In these comments, I'm giving the author options more than suggestions this time. All of these 3 stories would be pretty cool. The Space Marine captain watching his fleet being taken apart is probably the easiest version of this story. There would be nice cathartic aura farming moments with a statue throwing a rock through a ship in high orbit and so on. But on the other hand, a story about a child losing her father and witnessing a miracle could be a really powerful one as well. Normally, I would probably know what route to suggest that, as we would be working on something like an anthology that is missing one aura farming story, for example. But here I have to leave the question completely open as there's no stated goal this time. But I have to say the stone hand ruffling Lana's hair is easily the most emotionally impactful moment in the whole thing. So that's already a sign that the story might be pulling toward that one. So perhaps. Okay, let's talk about character work. Dev editing is a lot about characters and how they develop on the page and act on the page. Do they seem real people, real characters, instead of just like puppets being pulled by the author around? In this story, we don't actually have a lot of character material to look at. Interestingly, the whole first half has just 2 lines of dialogue, one from Mum and one from the Stone Guardian, and they both are excellent. Let's see. It's last stretch, sweetie. Just a little longer, stay strong. And then, it's all right now, brave little one. Stay here and protect your mum. The old one shall take care of the rest. Nice. Short stories are a lot about playing with the form, so having a story with just 2 lines of dialogue, one to start and one to end, would be a fun thing to do, perhaps. I was just supposed to talk about characters though, so Lana is our POV character for the beginning, and we see the bombing and the panic through her narration. My feedback on how to make that land even more would be first to take out the literary descriptions and replace them with a more lived-in, immediate, childlike observations, more smells and tactile feelings and glimpses of memories from Lana directly that would show us what kind of a kid she is and immerse us in her world directly. I would also ask for the mum to be more on the page as well. She is a potentially really interesting character. She just lost a husband and is trying to get her child to safety. So even without any dialogue, there could be a lot done on the page by showing us her panic and determination through Lana's narration. Normally, I would write all this into a structured letter, going through issues and opportunities and ending with a prioritized list of what I'd suggest the author to do. Usually people don't have infinite time or energy to work on a single book, so I like giving my list of do at least this, preferably this, and then you can also do all this stuff if you can type of list for the author so they can work effectively. And that's it for dev editing. I hope this was interesting. Remember to check the earlier video on line editing or the self-editing guide if you want to learn more about the subject.